Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spark Nation with the weekly comic book roundup. We've bit of a large roundup this week. We've got the rest of last week's books to cover, as well as this week's books. So it's a bit larger, and I'm gonna try to make sure we can get through these somewhat quickly. Kicking things off, we've got from last week, 10 Lives of Wolverine, number 5. I don't know exactly which books came out last week, but what I know for certain, it will be mentioned. So, where we left off in 10 Lives of Wolverine, Omega Red had managed to take control of Wolverine's body in the present, and had in fact stabbed Professor X in the shoulder. So, and was also utilizing his tendrils to further assault Xavier, as well as hold Jean back. But we've also got some quick flashes of other memories that are being affected by this, and we learned that the watch that Logan was looking at the beginning of the first issue was actually a gift to him from let me try and figure out which one. Captain Benedict Xavier. Watching compass, so he never loses his way. However, Xavier manages to regain control. Xavier and Logan manage to regain control, and Logan pulled himself out of the helmet, and things have been going wrong with Mikhail and Omega Red. There's a mission log excerpt about a couple of the tales we didn't see. In the New Mexico territory during westward expansionism, and France in World War I. In this case, it was Omega Red going after ancestors of Xavier's mother. But after Logan pulls himself out of everything, he knows where to find Omega Red. But in Russia, Mikhail and Omega Red argue about the fact that, as far as Mikhail is concerned, Omega Red failed. With Mikhail pointing out that while, yes, Omega Red was in Wolverine's head, briefly, Wolverine was in his. And Gateway, the mutant Gateway, teleports Wolverine to Omega Red's location. They duke it out. Omega Red using the Cerebro sword and one of his tentacles. However, Wolverine sticks his arm into the gaping hole where the Cerebro sword had been stabbed into Omega Red. After cutting off one of his hands, it should be added. And then he sticks his other hand in there and cuts Omega Red in two. Takes the Cerebro sword, heads back to Krakoa with it. There's an entry from Sage's logbook about the new Russia kind of wrapping, to a point, wrapping that plot thread up, tying up that plot thread. But like I said, Logan returns the Cerebro sword to the point, gives it to Sage, and says that he's going to take a year-long nap. However, Sage informs him that he can't rest yet because the island's under attack. Logan asks by whom, and well, Sage explains that it's under attack by him. And that is where the issue ends, leading us right into the final issue of 10 Deaths of Wolverine. And the best thing about 10 Lives is that it wrapped up the Mikhail story. It's given us a nice wrap up to the Mikhail storyline from X-Force, which at this point I figure is just going to, we likely going forward with that, we're getting just little bits here and there, like, oh yes, this is intel we've gleaned about what's going on in Russia now after the whole Mikhail Omega Red situation. So, on to 10 Deaths of Wolverine, number 5. Where we left off here, the Omega Wolverine had followed, or was waiting on Krakoa for Moira. Moira had shown up having murdered and skinned Banshee, and worn his skin to use a gate. And when Omega Wolverine attacked her, she shot him with Forge's power neutralizer, which caused the phalanx infection in him to finally spread, as his healing factor was the only thing keeping it at bay. So we begin with a flashback of sorts to Charles and Moira's first meeting, only she's bleeding, and it says simply, "Fuck you, Charles." She wishes she'd never met him, as she's lying in Krakoa dying. Omega Wolverine had stabbed her shortly before the phalanx infection took over. But the Wolverines are going after Omega Wolverine. Sage tells Beast to do everything he can to pull the cradle to remove the cradle from the network, as that's where Omega Wolverine's going. But she's got some other plans, explaining that she's a hacker. She's going to hack something. Well, she explains that later. But Logan is fighting the phalanx infection, but and his kids are doing what they can to at least slow him down, if not stop him, when the real deal shows up, and they duke it out, and there's some information gleaned from the Krakoan pod that brought Logan to the present, Omega Wolverine to the present, detailing the deaths of Marvel Girl, Nightcrawler, and Magneto, and also Xavier. But Wolverine and Omega Wolverine continue to fight it out when Sage shows up, and basically tosses the Cerebro sword to Wolverine. He grabs it and stabs Omega Wolverine with it. It's explained that the adamantium had been cleaned of any circuitry. Sage's counter-programming had burned out all traces of the phalanx, and the island took care of what was left, absorbing the nightmare version of Logan. With Logan says one more life he never wants to revisit. But Logan goes off to leave, explaining he's going to drink all the whiskey, every last drop of it. Get another text portion, kind of a little monologue from Wolverine. At the Green Lagoon, everyone's celebrating. But Logan says it's not about celebrating, it's about surviving. Logan, Charles, and Jean drink the death of the enemy with when Laura, Scout, and Dakin show up to join them. Laura mentioned that they won, and, well, Logan says only for now, adding that you know there's always more mayhem waiting around the next bend in the trail. And we get images, a panel showing Sabretooth. Also celebrating our Sage and Beast. Beast is really embracing I'm the asshole of Krakoa. So, yeah. However, we end with Moira rising from a grave as a cyborg. Explaining she's more than a body. She's an intelligence now, and she no longer needs to reboot the timeline to change the future. Adding that the old stories say that swans gain the gift of song toward the end of their lives. They sing most beautifully and powerfully before they die. Moira says she's still here, and that she hopes that everyone's looking forward to her swan song. That is where the issue and the series conclude. Again, 10 Deaths was honestly the better of these two. I'll be talking about them both for Mutant Monday this week, so I'll be going much more in depth into my thoughts on those. But it was a good conclusion. Sets up, gives us some ideas of what to look forward to in the coming months for X books and so forth. Moving on to our next book, we've got Wolverine Patch #1. So, for those who may be unaware, there are Wolverine frequently runs around on the island of Madripoor, and usually while doing so, he adopts the identity of Patch, where his disguise is an eye patch. Because you got to go all out with the disguises when you're someone Wolverine. So, we open up on what appears to be a zoo full of monkeys. They appear to be agitated. There's a compound. They're in a compound, and it's kind of just like, what's got them spooked. Before we got to the Princess Bar, where Patch is enjoying a drink with his friend, cargo freight pilot Archie Corrigan. Tiger, a local crime boss, to be perfectly honest, and silent co-owner of the Princess Bar, comes in. She has something that she wants Patch to look into something for the Prince of Madripoor, who offers to pay Archie 3 times his usual fee for some aerial recon. So, next day, Archie and Patch are flying along. They see appears to be a clearing with a metal hut, with a metal building in it. That doesn't look normal. And they also find what appears to be an old experimental Soviet aircraft, some kind of VTOL, which appears to be a Hind designed to function more like a jet. Take the cockpit end of a hind helicopter and stick it on a VTOL jet of some type. However, they're promptly stopped by. They're found by a helicarrier and stopped. Apparently, Nick Fury is on board. And basically, tells Patch to stay out of Shield business. And so, him and Archie go back down towards where they're looking and keeping one side of the plane facing the helicarrier. While Archie has one side of the plane facing the helicarrier, Patch jumps out the other side, lands on the ground, no shoot, injures himself, has popped everything back into place. But yeah, long time Wolverine enemy General Coy is watching. General Coy, if I remember correctly, is the uncle of founding New Mutants member Karma. Back at Madripoor International Airport, Tiger explains that she's certain that the prince is up to no good, and she wanted a favor. She wanted to be owed a favor by him, so she offered me the go-between. But she asked Archie if there was any unusual activity at the airport, and he states some Russian bigwigs flew in last week, only passengers on an entire airliner. But it appears that there's some Yakuza who are likely experimenting on monkeys. And they doesn't want to have the whole combat bulge cage monkeys. As Wolverine tries to make his way back to the clearing, at least to the crashed VTOL, his ears and nose catch something. Something out there moving real quiet. And yeah, one can hide from sight and make almost no noise, but you can't stop emitting pheromones. And so Wolverine's attacked by a Russian woman who, and the two of them, duke it out for a bit until apparently she is accusing him of being a bounty hunter, which he's not. He doesn't know what reward she's even referring to. But Wolverine pops his claws, and then he's attacked from behind by Gimel, who has invisibility powers. They explain they're both enhanced mutants. Wolverine stabs the girl Beth in the arm with both sets of claws, basically allowing her to hold him in place so that Gimel can attack him from behind, and they leave him for dead. Explain, not even a mutant can recover from that. So he gets up after they've walked away, and noting that Beth left a clear blood trail. And Patch goes on the hunt. That is where the issue ends. I haven't read even though I've read quite a bit of Wolverine comics over the years, I haven't read a lot of the ones where he operates as Patch. A lot of the stuff with him as Patch, if I remember correctly, was mostly published when he was in when Marvel Comics had the weekly, or when he was bi-weekly Marvel Comics Presents title, which at the time, generally speaking, would have 4 features. There would be 2 regular featured characters, Wolverine generally being one of them, and the Wolverine stories in Marvel Comics Presents, generally speaking, took place in Madripoor. Sometimes they didn't, but usually it was Madripoor. A prime example of this was the story which introduced the villain Cyber. That appeared in a handful of issues of Marvel Comics Presents. Also, the Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X story was also initially published in a series of issues of Marvel Comics Presents. But I mean, it's entertaining stuff, and it's a different era, but you can still see some of the, I guess, modern sensibilities of Marvel Comics, namely in the fact that in the 80s and for a good long while, both Wolverine and Nick Fury were known for smoking cigars. Interesting how neither one is doing so, but hey, that's not necessarily bad. It's a slight point to make. It's just a small little detail to notice, and it's fine. But the issue itself is quite good. I'm definitely looking forward to reading the rest of this miniseries. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Darth Vader number 21. Where we had left off with Darth Vader, Vader had retrieved a list of supposed Crimson Dawn collaborators or infiltrators within the Empire, and he had sent Ochi and Bestoon, as well as some others working, some recently recruited associates, to kill all these infiltrators. However, he had learned he knew that the list was a plant. There were some legitimate agents, but not all of them. Turns out the list had been planted by Senator Amidala, the late Senator Padme Amidala's handmaiden, Sabe, who is working for Crimson Dawn. And Sabe had Ochi, also a Crimson Dawn infiltrator, and Sly Moore, another Crimson Dawn infiltrator, at her mercy. As Ochi had been tasked with finding the connections between those on the list who were not Crimson Dawn infiltrators. But she explained. She tries to explain that she wants to know what Vader wants, what drives him. Though Ochi's just like, he's not a man of many words. He's not much of a talker, but order seems to be his big thing. But he's a Sith. He wants power. With Sly Moore explaining that Vader told the Emperor he'd bring order. General Ramodi of the Empire is spacing the bodies of various soldiers, and apparently he says that having investigated the dead soldiers, none of them had any links at all to Crimson Dawn. But there's a link. A handful of them participated in a purge of rebel sympathizers, the Amidalans. Ochi also warns Vader that Ramodi is likely to be coming after him. So, the local heroes that Vader and Ochi have recruited have their next assignment. They're going after Yit. But it's a trap. Ramodi set a trap, and but they find another survivor of. But upon learning that things are not that things aren't going that they're expendable as far as Vader's concerned. Or at least some of them. Things go south, and Vader steps in, killing one of his new associates. They find the leader of the squad which took out the Amidalans. But the Trandoshan member, the local heroes, gets before ends up killing the officer before she can tell everything about the whole thing, the mission to Vader. Vader asks Valance who sent the droids. Valance says that they were from Ramodi's command. But while Ochi is trying to weasel his way through things, Valance takes a shot at him and escapes, going to Naboo to speak with Sabe. And his ship is blown up shortly after he arrives by Vader. And as Sabe was the leader of the Amidalans. But he takes her Crimson Dawn brooch and states that he intends to use her because he is the Dawn. And that is where the issue ends. The Crimson Reign running arc throughout the Star Wars books is definitely interesting. It should be. It's not a true crossover in the same way that things like the War of the Bounty Hunters was. It's more just it's an overarching story, much in the same manner of Dark Reign in Marvel after the events of Secret Invasion, the Initiative after Civil War. And to be fair, it's the tie-ins are very interesting to it so far. But you basically have a frame, kind of okay, this is going on, so how can we work this character into these events? Which brings us to our next book, though, Dr. Aphra, number 19. Where we left off, Aphra and Sana were on the trail of a former classmate of theirs, Kofan Forrest, who was looking for ascendancy artifacts. Much like Aphra and Sana were, though for very different reasons. Aphra and Sana were looking for ascendancy artifacts for their employer, Davina Tage. She is trying to duplicate Force abilities via technology, or at least lightsabers. So yeah. So we open with a flashback at the University of Barleth years ago. Ko's talking to the registrar, but her name doesn't, the name she gives does not match her imperial identity. Aphra helps her out and convinces her to help them with something. And it then becomes the present with Ko returning to the University of Barleth, and kind of goes back and forth between the present and the past. Apparently, Aphra wants Ko to help them break into a professor's office. He's got a bunch of artifacts, and they're going to rehome them. But Ko goes to the chair of occult, or office of the chair of occult archaeological studies at Barleth University, Eglantine Noss. And meanwhile, Aphra and Sana are on their way. Davina Tage orders them to return, but to the assessor. But yeah, that's the Inquisitor. But yeah, no. The fact that Aphra basically said, I guess I must take care of it first, it causes Davina to send forth a squad of UB's mercenaries led by Bouche, whom she recruited during the War of the Bounty Hunters. But the professor takes Ko into a hidden and secret ascendancy fortress underneath the college. And explains that while he did initially lobby for Ko's expulsion after she broke into his office, and her classwork showed her to be a very attentive student, and so he was impressed with her. But Aphra and Sana break in, deal with security, and then basically go down where the follow Ko and the professor. But Ko explains that the professor needs to tell her where the heart is, so she can use it to find the eternal spark. But the professor explains that the heart isn't hidden within the sanctum. It is the sanctum. The spark is already there. And that is where the issue ends. That's to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. Also, the Dr. Aphra shoot was good. There's definitely some interesting fallout from War of the Bounty Hunters, which I think, honestly, I'm kind of feeling like Darth Vader and Dr. Aphra have the best post-War of the Bounty Hunters story arcs. But this is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.